Yeah, absolutely. We are live and welcome back to
W2OM more with
the McCaws. We're here, fantastic, together, and it's brilliant and it feels good. And Thea's here too,
our little baby.
our little baby. Today is going to be quite a interesting podcast. But first, how's your week been?
It's been a bit of a roller coaster, but it's been okay.
Why? Why has it been a roller coaster?
Well, I'm just trying to sort out, go to Guatemala and see my family, and
Yeah, it's a bit of a mess, isn't it?
It is.
When do you want to go?
In December.
Hmm.
Hopefully, because I haven't spent Christmas in 4 years with my family now.
Yes. Oh no, Christmas. Yeah. But you've been since then.
Yeah.
When was the last time you went?
2 years ago.
Yeah.
So I think it's time now.
It's time to go.
Yes.
What stops you from going now, do you think?
Well, I need to ask a really big ask, really, at my job if I can take all my holiday in one time. So a month. I'm gonna go for a month.
They've been pretty good with you, though, haven't they?
Yes, they've been really, really good. But I hope this time is the same. I just need to know as soon as possible, because the not knowing is what gets me. Like, oh, I need to know.
Yeah. What else have we been doing?
We had a guest in our house. We did have a guest.
We had a guest.
Last weekend, no, 2 weeks ago.
Last weekend? No, the weekend just gone.
Really?
No.
Yes.
No. It can't have been. It must have been.
Yes.
Yeah, it was.
The weekend.
Yeah. So we had Gary.
A beautiful little cockapoodle.
Yeah. Gary is a cockapoodle that lives in the area, and we looked after him from Friday evening to Sunday evening. So that was nice. They had a little friend with her.
That was really cute.
So that was great. That was great fun, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And he's coming again soon, isn't he?
Next weekend.
Yeah, so that's great.
We have a new member of the family, so
he comes back. He comes when he wants, and he does what he wants. A bit like you.
He wasn't letting Thea get close to us, so that was cute.
I'm not wearing my wedding ring.
Oh.
Because I took it off to wash up.
That's
so if you notice this, that's why.
We're still married.
We're still married.
We still love each other.
But yeah, no, we've been pretty busy. I've been running a lot.
I'm trying to get a marathon.
I have a half marathon in Oxford next month, so I'm excited for that. So I'm getting in algunas millas. Por favor. Ayúdame Dios.
That's going to be awesome.
That's going to be great fun. So I'm excited for that. And I've been reading lots of books.
We've been reading in the night. Well, you've been reading, I've been listening.
Yeah. I'm reading a lot of books at the moment. No, I'm not reading a lot of books. I'm reading one book, but I'm just a bit mad for reading at the moment. Does anyone else get like that? I hope you do. Because
I'm more like listening. I love podcasts.
Yeah.
You're my personal podcast.
Yeah. I do enjoy reading, and if I can read, I also enjoy reading aloud. That sounds very childish. I'm like, when one day Sarah went to the shop. Like, I like to read it out loud, and I think it helps my mind. I think it helps my mind learn it by reading it out loud. So I don't mind, and then you enjoy listening to it.
I really enjoy it.
So sometimes I'll read stuff and we'll stop and we'll talk about it, and that's great. But I've come to a point where I'm buying lots of books.
I know. Just this week, a store bought like 5 books.
I went to the toilet. Like, this is a weird story. I should probably leave this.
Happy?
I should probably leave this for the podcast. But anyway, I'm just going to go for it. But when was it? It was like this Tuesday. I went to the toilet at like 5:30 a.m. Right, got up out of bed. Went to the toilet, searched for books, bought a book while I was on the toilet. Normal, pretty normal behaviour. And then
like that.
Just bought one. Went back to bed. Woke up and I was like, I just bought. Like, I forgot about it until I got an update to say that it had been sent out. So that was a bit mad, really. But there you go. We're here, and we're dealing with it, and we're just enjoying life, aren't we?
Yes.
It's just great fun.
We've been very busy, like extremely busy. That's why it's been hard to keep in touch with people and a lot of things.
It has been, but we're back at youth, King's Arms Youth. Big up, represent.
That's been amazing. Yeah.
And what else have we done? What else are we back to? That's it, really.
We're back to a lot of things. Yeah,
Mm-mm.
I've been very busy with the shop.
Yes, yeah. Shop Possum Life's going well.
Possum life is going
going
possum.
Absolutely awesome. It's going brilliantly.
Yes, really enjoying it.
So that's great fun. That's great to be busy. Today, we're going to be talking about Build Your House. That is the title for today. What do you
Build
think
your
of?
house.
Build your kingdom.
That was the first thing that I
Let
thought.
the captives free. I don't know if that's the term. That's the word. I'm just running with it.
Should we quickly say
We pray. Oh, sorry.
that we're here? No.
What's that?
Just to say that we're
Yeah. Tell Instagram. Go.
Because we're doing a live on Instagram. We are on YouTube. We're live on YouTube. I'll show you the video. Let me see. How can I? Yeah, there. We are live on YouTube. So
live on YouTube.
If you are watching this video, go to YouTube and you will see us there. And we're gonna be talking about build your kingdom. No, build your what?
Build your bananas.
Build your
house.
Build your house.
Is build your house. So we're going to get into that right now on this podcast.
We're live on YouTube. So if you are watching on Instagram,
there you go
on our YouTube channel. And we are
Cross Kinetic.
And I think I have the link in my bio. I'm not sure, but yeah,
do that. Fantastic. Let's get into it then.
Buenas, Ginny.
Without further ado.
Thank you, Kimberly. It's really nice.
Let's get into it.
Okay, so we're getting into it.
Fantastic. Build your house. When we talk build your house, what do you mean? What does that what's the first thing you think of when I say build your house?
I think the first thing that comes to my mind is the structure.
Structure.
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know. Like the basis. I don't know why. The first thing that I think when you said about build your house, that's the first thing that I think about.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a good thing to think about because that is relevant and that is a very nice transition into what we're talking about. Build your house. And so we're going to be talking today about really about when Jesus is talking to the people and telling them a parable. And he says this in Matthew 7:24 to 27. He says this: "Therefore, everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them will be like a wise man who built his house on the rock. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and slammed against that house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded on the rock. And everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and slammed against that house, and it fell, and the collapse was great." So here we have like a physical story. Jesus is telling a physical story of an event. Like this is basically, he's using a physical illustration to make a point here. Do you think this is only about a house? About a physical house?
Oh, of course not.
Of course not. And that is what we're going to go on to today. If you've heard this verse before, I'm glad because you are here to hear it, and it's fantastic. And while you're here, if you're on the podcast, jump into the podcast, right? And if you're on the podcast and you want to interject, and this is an interactive podcast, so if you want to share anything, we can share what you put. So if there's anything that you want to put into the conversation or questions you want to ask that we can discuss, get involved. So we're talking about foundations. This is what Jesus is talking about, really. He's talking about the foundations in which we build our lives. The house is a structural illustration of our lives. What do you think, if that's for the illustration, what foundations do we find ourselves naturally putting our lives on? What do you think are some examples of things that we...
Like beliefs that we have?
No, but not necessarily faith-based. Well, I mean, technically they're all slightly faith-based, but what are some of the things that you think, a lot of people put their identity or their foundation into this?
Okay. Money. That's
a good one. Let's stop there.
Fame.
Let's stop there. Right. Money and fame. That's a good one. where do we see that? Where do you think, like, obviously, do you think you ever had a problem with that, money and
Not money. Money hasn't
Yeah.
really been a problem for me. I
Okay.
think in what could be like words of affirmation.
No, we're still talking about money.
Okay.
Do you mean, yeah. Okay, so
No,
we'll
because
keep,
you asked me if it's not money, what other?
yeah, no, let's talk about money first. Where do you think, when somebody, so I would say one of mine has been money. Because I come from an area that's kind of not.
Materialist.
Well, yeah. The area is very materialistic, and what happens in an area like that is that it's what you have basically, like, and how you spend, the clothes you wear and the car you've got and all of these things are physical illustrations of how well you're doing in life. And it's absolute nonsense. Like,
Yeah.
it's the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard in my whole life. But it's still, it's the way things are. Like, people just can't. We do it subconsciously as well. Subnaturally, submarine. We do it subconsciously. We look at somebody that might drive an old car and we go, "Oh, they can't be doing very well." But
Or they might not have money or things like that.
Yeah. But we spoke a little bit about money, I guess, in our last podcast together, and that we had a lot of comments about that as well, which was great. People really liked that, and we really enjoyed doing that and talking about that. And if you wanted to have us elaborate on that even more, certain areas with that, we can. This was just a kind of introduction into money, and hopefully we kind of challenged and changed the perspective a little bit on using money. What other things do we think that we put that we allow to be our foundations for life?
Relationships.
What type of relationships do you think?
Like boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah.
Husband. How do you call it? Like sentimental relationship.
Yeah.
Although even friends, like I feel like sometimes you can put your foundations in who do you spend time with.
Yeah.
Or trying to fit in a group of people and maybe they don't want you to be or something.
Yeah, any type of relationship you can fully put your one I hear, and actually I would say it bothers me a little bit, is when parents will have a child and they'll make a comment online about how that child now gives them purpose. Now I totally understand what they mean, but I think it's sad that child gave them purpose rather than understanding their purpose on their own.
Yes.
And I think it's always interesting when we're like, especially when you mentioned like boyfriend and girlfriend, you kind of, a lot of people, or we find ourselves naturally being like putting all our foundation into one person, and actually we really, really struggle with separation. And these are difficult things. Absolutely. I don't want to skim over and pretend there's not an emotional element. But, people are amazing on their own. And this is what, like, Jesus is talking to really us as individuals. You're like, yes, as a whole, and you can be in a relationship and still put your relationship, your foundations into your faith, into relationship with Jesus. But as individuals, we should be doing that first, And what other areas of relationship, like, obviously, we talked about boyfriend, girlfriend. We talked about friends. Here's lapping it up. What else do you think? What other areas of
like friendships, like
that's
money.
a big one. Did you
even I feel like a hobby or a sport. Some people.
Let me ask the question about friendships. Have you struggled with friendships in the past, or how did you deal with friendships?
No, I think like. What do you mean, like in a specific?
As in, have you allowed friendships to be the foundations for which you built your life before in the past?
No.
No,
I don't.
Oh, I definitely have. I think I was a bit. Many years ago? Not even many years ago. I guess like maybe 5 or 6 years ago. I basically realised that a lot of the way I was acting was to fit in with the crowd I was in at the time. And so that became who I was. So I was very good at being that chameleon and and being like, oh, I need to be this person in front of these people. I need to be that person with these people. Do you want a fella? She's trying to get into the kitchen. Don't know why. Where you going? You're going to make dinner tonight. But yeah, that's an interesting thought, isn't it? This idea of friendships and changing on behalf of other people. What other things do we put our... We're not going to cover them all. We're not going to claim to cover them all, but it's great to be able to talk about some of them, isn't it? Mm-hmm. What other things do you think we put our...
I feel like some people even put their foundations in education or hobbies. Like some people might say, like, my degrees are my identity. Or my sport, any sport that they practice, is their identity.
Yeah. Absolutely. That's definitely the case, and we see the same with careers as well. You know, when people have jobs and they want to become a certain thing, that they work hard and rightly so. They work hard and they deserved what they got out of it at the end. But people can put a lot of weight and pressure into who they are under this banner of and it's very natural, isn't it? I think it's natural because we live in a world that judges us based on what we have, and both in all of these things, like we only decide it's our identity because the world values it. The world values money, the world values our career, the world values relationships. We all want to be loved, don't we? Yeah. Is there anything else that you think is a major foundational point? They're the good ones, aren't they? They're the good ones. And these are exciting. Like these are all great things. Like money is a great thing. A career is a great thing. Relationships are amazing things. But I guess they're not sturdy enough. Like none of them are sturdy enough to be the rock that we build our lives upon. And what he says is, it's like the foolish man builds his house on sand, and the wise man builds his house on rock. And I guess what we're saying here is any of these things, and we could go through any of them effectively, none of them are sturdy enough to hold the house that you base that is your life. None of them are strong enough foundations for that. And that's worth thinking about for everybody. Why do you think that's worth thinking about?
Because it's important to know where we're building our life. So if you know your foundations, you know where are you building your life. And it reminds me of this verse in the Bible that Jesus was talking. I think what Jesus was explaining about that there was a man that built his house on the sand, and there was another man that built a house on a rock. And then the storm came, and then the one that built the house in the rock keep his house because it was based on a stronger thing.
That's the one we read.
I see.
Yeah, so absolutely. So that's right. In doing that, it's like this. You've sent it off a little bit there. I can't remember where we were going. Yeah, let's turn it off. If you want to carry on watching, go on the YouTube. Ready? On the YouTube. I sound like an old man there. Go on the YouTube. Check out the YouTube. I do reviews on the YouTube. Yeah, I've gone off a little bit there. I can't remember where my notes are. Yeah, so that's really, really, really important. I think first off, it's really good to know, like Nanny was saying, to identify what your points are. Like, where do you put your foundations? Let's say not do anything about them, but what are your foundations in which you put your life? And the best way to do that, ultimately, I think, is to figure out where your worries are. As in, where your heart lies, your worries will also lie, almost. And so that's why we worry about money, is because we're worried about that. We've put our foundations into how much money we've got. We worry about our job and our career if that's where our foundations are. We worry about if we're at school or college and we've got loads of friends and we're worried about losing friends. That's where we've put our foundations. And so ask yourself that question. Maybe it's worth asking yourself that question to go, where are my foundations? What do you think are things that places you've put your foundations that aren't right, or you acknowledge aren't right?
I think um, I like in general, I've seen it in my life. I started looking for foundations in the area that I feel like I was lacking of something.
So where is it?
So, for example, if
Mm.
I am lacking of love,
Hmm.
I'm gonna start looking for my foundations in someone that tells me words of affirmation.
So words of affirmation have been something that
Yes.
you value, and it's a good thing, but you've put all your weight on
Yes.
that foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And what have you found? Use that example, and what have you found in as a result? Like, is that a safe place to put your weight?
No,
Mm.
because you're never gonna like. I feel like you could expect so much from someone,
Mm.
and only the one who created you has the power to really fill your heart with what you're needing.
Mm.
There are some areas
Mm-hmm.
where no one can fill everything. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're an amazing husband and you're really good, but like your words will never be enough to fulfill everything that my heart will desire,
Mm.
because my heart was created to receive it from God.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like that's the first mistake that we do. We think that we're going to find on this earth something that complete us
Yeah.
fully.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I'm trying to think of anything that I've had where I've like put my weight into. I can definitely relate to the sports one, the fitness and health and being, that guy who's the best at running or the best at something else and just being the fittest guy there. I've definitely put my identity in that. And it's not like I'm at a much healthier position with that now. I still run because it's not as if I've had to take it from being, I guess, an idol or something that, I really worship, as it were, and take the good from it and still go, yeah, I can still go out and run and still enjoy and still be competitive in running without putting my foundations. I'm not a runner. That isn't who I am. It's something I do. And when you decide I'm this thing, like ultimately I'm a Christian and I like to be a runner and I like to be a creative person and we're podcast hosts and that's just extra facets, extra um, like things that we do, but it's not who we are.
Mm.
And I think it's great for us to analyze, okay, what are the things? So have a think for a moment. What are the things that we put our weight into? Because I think that's really important to analyze. And also, if it is something that's valuable, do I put that before my relationship with God? Because
Mm-hmm.
then that becomes an idol.
Yes.
Or compare that thing that you're thinking about right now to your relationship with God. If it's your phone, for example, we all see everybody getting out their phones as soon as they can. Do you use your phone more than you think about, like, representing your faith out and about?
Mm-hmm.
Like, does your phone come first? And if it does, like, phones are great things on their own, and these things usually are, as we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
But is it a great thing if it overtakes our relationship with God?
Mm. That's the problem. I feel like sometimes we might feel like, God is being so unfair because why did he took that away from me? And
Mm.
sometimes what we don't see is like if God wouldn't take that away from us, that will turn into an idol that will like take us far from God.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes I find it like in my life, every time that something is getting like too much for me to the point that I'm not spending much time reading my Bible or spending time with God, I feel like God does something to shake me
Mm.
to realize that, like,
To make you realise.
yes, to make me realize that that's not the source of my happiness.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's a good point. That's a good point, and it's interesting, isn't it? Because I
Mm.
think you know, if you, yeah, I think knowing these things is really important. It's a like effectively like we always hear with addiction. That seems to be the it, the extreme, but like the best way to deal with addiction, as we hear, is the first thing to do is to acknowledge there's a problem. And I think with any of these things, whether it's relationships or other people or what other people think of me, I definitely care about the way my parents think about me. And at one stage, this was much more important to me than it is now. But I still care. It's a good thing to care, but it's not to the point where it ruins or changes who you are as an individual.
Yeah.
And all these things, I guess I want to stick to the subject, is that all these things are insecure foundations in which to base our lives. And so what we do is we have Jesus say, this is the foolish thing to do, is to base your whole life in ... and those things that we film, relationships, fitness, professions. And what do you think are some of the damaging aspects? Why do you think Jesus would say, here's a strong foundation? No, why did you think Jesus would try and make us so aware not to put our foundations into anything but him?
Because everything on this earth is not forever. It's
Okay.
not forever.
Yeah.
So at any time, it could go
Yeah.
and leave us empty and worse again because we put all our mind, attention, and everything so dependent on the things or the people or.
Yeah.
But he said like he is the foundation because he's eternal, and in him our heart is secure.
Yeah, that's good, and that's effectively like what I think is really. Nanny and I had a chat on the way to youth in the car. We were talking about death in general, and this has always been a weird subject for me because I, to be honest, I've been protected from that. I've lived in a little bubble of not having anybody really, really, really close to me die. I've had like semi-close, but not anybody really close to me, and that's like it's a weird situation because of course you've got to be ready. Like I'm like, okay, I've got to be ready for this. I want to be ready for this, but also I know that I'm never going to be ready for it because I've never felt anything like it, and I never will feel anything like it. But the key thing is making sure that I know where to put my foundations now, because ultimately, when people come to me and and say I'm losing someone's passing away that I love, and we talk about it, I come from the perspective that that actually through Jesus we have eternal life. And so there's knowing that in your head and going, oh no, it's all right though, it's all right. But there's also knowing that in your heart, and I think that's where I go, oh flip, like this is a reality. This is going to. There's one thing me knowing, oh no, I know the Christian answer for this. I know the right thing to say to people. But there's also making sure that I know it in my heart for when it does happen, that my foundations are in the right place, not in the idea of life. Like life could be the foundation I put my life in. In this example, it could be life is the main situation. And so death, I'm going to struggle with it. But actually, Jesus leads us to say, right, put the foundation into him because he's the only one that is with us through the good times and the bad, because we lose relationships, we lose jobs, we lose health, all of these factors are things that can be taken away from us like that. And that is why it is so important to have a firm foundation. And so he leads on, and so I'm going to just bring up my notes so I just read that last bit again. So, and everybody who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell and the floods came and the winds blew and they slammed against that house and it fell, and its collapse was great. It's basically saying that we're foolish if we decide to put our foundations in anything other than God. That he's waiting for us to put all trust into him, all of our foundations and worries and cares and concerns on his shoulders, bringing them to the cross. And it also reminded me of another verse. It's Matthew 16:13-20. And it says, when Jesus came to the region of Caesarea Philippi, he asked his disciples, who do people say the Son of Man is? 14. They replied, some say John the Baptist, others say Elijah, and still others Jeremiah. So some people say, oh, he's just a clever man. He's just a prophet. He's just one of these things. And then Jesus says, I don't care about any of that. I don't care about what other people say I am. I don't care who other people compare me to. He says, but what about you? He asked, who do you say I am? And I think the two link in, because this is an indicator for us to say, like, we won't put our foundations into things we don't trust.
Yes.
And God's saying to us, who do you right now say that Jesus is?
Mm-hmm.
And that's another takeaway that we want you to kind of have a think about, is going, who is Jesus to me? Is he someone that I just got raised to think about through school or church or the Sunday service? Is there anything you want to add? Yeah.
Yes. On this or on the on
just on where you're at. Yeah.
On this verse.
No. In just your thoughts.
Yes. So I think it's very important from my life. For example, I lost my dad when I was 6. And I told this story already, but I won't go into detail. But after that, I remember reading an article when I was at school and saying something that in the girls is the dad who reaffirm their identity in the first years of their life until they're like 12. And then in the boys is the mom. So I was thinking, what am I going to do if my dad died? Yeah. Who's going to show me my identity? So it's so easy for every of us to be in that situation and think, well, the easiest path is to go with my friends so that they tell me who am I. But the problem of that is, like, there's jealousy, there is like bullying, there is a lot of things that people might say. Or then your happiness is so attached to people's comments over you. And that's why you see a lot of people like spending loads of money on clothes that they can't afford, but they just do it for a comment, for something to build themselves. So I think it's very important to go to the source of happiness, that is Jesus. And I remember when I was 12, I found Jesus, and I found I had some experiences with God when I thought he is real. He is my dad, and in him I find my identity. And to keep reminding you that, because it's not a one thing. Like, you can be watching this video, you can be listening to this podcast and think, well, that's good, I'm gonna make God my priority. And then 1 week later something bad happens and you're like I'm off, I'm going now. It's not like that. And I have a friend, I remember Tuches is my best friend in Guatemala, and he used to say, a Christian life is something that you have to die to yourself every day. And he said you have to obligate yourself to do what is good, because you're not always gonna have the desire to worship God. You have to tell yourself, I have to do this, and you have to literally obligate yourself. Is that obligate a word? No,
that's not a word we use in that sort of context.
How do you say
yeah, but you have to step into the obligation of doing something. You have an obligation to
tell yourself, I'm gonna do this, because you're not always gonna feel as if you want to do it. But I feel like the key for that, to build your house, to build your foundations, is to remind yourself that you can't do things on your own. Even if you're the strongest person and you have all the qualifications, you just can't. You need someone that is higher.
Yeah, she's scratching it. She's having a bit of a dance on the stairs. Do you want to grab her? I want to come around. So I think that's a really, really good point. Really, really important. And I guess what Nae's saying is that what we have a choice. Everybody has a choice to go down a line of going, actually, right, I've got this, we talked about who is Jesus. Why should I put trust in Jesus? And I think, like one of the things I did is that I asked myself the same question a few years ago. And I then said, okay, what are my options? That's the real situation. Is I said, what are my options? Because I'd lived life before being a Christian in a crazy way, but also in a very times crazy, times more normal than others. But I had the opportunity to go away and live and put my foundations in other things, and it didn't give me satisfaction. It didn't give me the joy I was always chasing. And so the problem is, if you base your identity and foundations in what other people think, everybody thinks different. So you're always changing based on other people, and you get tired. It's tiring. It's not peace fulfilling because you're always looking for it, and that manifests itself in different ways. But it's important that actually we realize that the Word of God, or having a relationship with Jesus and what Jesus instructs us to do, is actually good for us as well. It's not just, okay, we're going to follow it because it's a load of instructions, but look into it. Like, look into what Jesus is asking of us first, and then decide, does that work? Like, why would somebody say this? Why would someone give us instructions? Because I've used this analogy before, but if a child is running towards a road, right, and the parent stops the child from running out into the road, the parent knows why he's doing that. He knows the bigger picture. He knows that if he lets the child out, the child's going to get killed, right? The parent knows, but the child doesn't know. And we're almost, we're referred to in the Bible as children of God. And in the same way, there's dangers, there's things that we have the option to step into. That child has the option to step into the road. But I think we should look at the bigger picture and go, why are we here? Why do we live this life? Why do I care about loving people? Ask yourself that question. If you're not a Christian at all, that's not a problem. But ask yourself, why do I love people? What is love? Why do I think it's important that person should act one way or another? Why is it important that to love the person that lives next? If we're all just machines from a big explosion, and I don't really know where it comes from, why? If you're confident with your answer, absolutely stay in that place. But also, if you're asking that question and you want to know, Jesus says, "Come to me because I'm the firm foundation. I'm a solid foundation in which to base your life." And that's what we've found. And obviously, I had a video 2 weeks ago with Christian Taylor, and he said something right at the end of the video that was fantastic. He said, if you've been out for a nice meal, you would tell your friends. And effectively, what we believe, our worldview, has changed our lives radically, hasn't it? Like, radically, and is constantly changing our lives radically. That all we want to do now is see other people live the same way or better than we get to live, And we believe ultimately that every person that watches this or doesn't watch this has purpose in God's eyes, and it's important that we take up that mandate to really step into that purpose. What's she eating? Go on, you go check. Yeah, Thea gets hold of the weirdest things, right? Don't know where, and I'm scared it's chocolate. It's not chocolate on this occasion, fortunately, but things are pretty scary. Having a dog is like weird, weird, but she's eating. But yeah, that's where we're at, really. I think foundations are really, really important. And I have to check myself sometimes, and I go, what's the reason I'm doing this? What's the reason I'm putting up this photo? What's the reason that I'm, posting about this or saying this about somebody else? And ultimately, it can be for wrong reasons. It could be with the best intentions, but actually deep down, I know that there's a wrong reason at heart. And I think that's really important, So I just thought there's two things that I thought, great, let's talk about build your house. This idea that we all put our foundations in something, but Jesus asks us to put foundations in his. Second, I guess, is a challenge in saying, where do you put your foundations? If you don't know where that is, follow your worries, follow your concerns, because where you find your worries, you'll also find your foundations. And the third thing is, Jesus says, who do you say I am? And he says that actively to us today on a daily basis. Who do you say that Jesus is? Do you think now is a good place to stop? To bring that in? Do you think there's anything else you want to add?
No, I already ended before.
You finished it. Thank you for grabbing Thea. Because, yeah, not usually we try and take her out for a walk before, get her tired, and then have her sleep. But she's been a bit restless. She loves it. Absolutely loves it. Well, guys, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for listening. If you were listening on podcasts, we just think it's great that we get to share this type of stuff. And if there's anything you'd like us to talk about or share, please let us know. If you're on YouTube, subscribe, like. If you're on Apple Podcasts, do what you guys do best. Yeah. If you want to check them out, say goodbye to.
Bye and see you next week.
See you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.